Amun was one of the 8 ancient Egyptian deities comprising the Ogdoad of Hermopolis. Initially revered as the god of air, Amun's consort was the goddess Ament, Amaunet. However, during the 12th dynasty of the Middle Kingdom, Amun was adopted by Thebes as the king of the gods, with Mut as his consort. Together, Amun and Mut had a son, Khonsu, the god of the moon. Amun's prominence grew when Amose-Bermern, the first pharaoh of the new kingdom, elevated him to the status of national god, attributing his success in expelling the Hyksos from Egypt to Amun's divine intervention. Over time, Amun merged with the ancient sun god Ra, becoming Amun Ra, and was also integrated into the Ennead of Heliopolis. There is some speculation that there may have been 2 separate deities named Amun, or it is equally plausible that Amun of Heliopolis absorbed the attributes of the Theban god Montu when he replaced him as the principal god of the region in later periods. Amun's name is commonly translated as the Hidden One or the Secret One. It was believed that he was self-created and then went on to create everything else, all while remaining distant and separate from the world. In this sense, he was viewed as the original inscrutable and indivisible creator. Upon merging with Ra, Amun became both a visible and invisible deity, a duality that resonated with the Egyptian concept of balance and harmony, thus linking Amun Ra with Mat, the goddess of truth and justice. Amun also became associated with Montu, whom he largely supplanted, as well as with several hybrid deities such as Amun Ra Atum, Amun Ra Montu, Amun Re Horakhty, and Amun Min. In various inscriptions, Amun was associated with numerous animals, whose forms he occasionally assumed. He was initially depicted as a goose, earning the epithet, the Great Cackler, similar to Geb. Additionally, it was believed that he could regenerate himself by becoming a snake and shedding his skin. However, Amun was most frequently depicted as a ram, a symbol of fertility. He was also portrayed as a man with the head of a ram, a frog, a uraeus, royal cobra, a crocodile, or even as an ape. Finally, he was depicted as a king sitting on a throne, wearing the double-plumed crown associated with Min. During the Ptolemaic period, bronze statues of Amun depicted him as a bearded man with 4 arms, the body of a beetle, the wings of a hawk, the legs of a man, and the paws and claws of a lion. In the pyramid texts, Amun is described as the primeval creator, symbolizing the creative force of the universe. He rose to prominence during the 11th dynasty, when he replaced Montu, the Theban war god, as the city's principal deity. From that time forward, Amun's fortunes were closely tied to the rise of Thebes. When Amosuan successfully drove the Hyksos out of Egypt, he honored Amun by building temples in his name, most notably the Luxor Temple and the Great Temple at Karnak. During the New Kingdom, Amun Ra's influence became so immense that Egypt nearly transformed into a monotheistic state. Amun Ra was considered the father and protector of the pharaoh, and the priests of Amun controlled a significant portion of Egypt's land and resources. The royal women of Thebes also held considerable power and were deeply involved in the cult of Amun. Queen Amose-Nefertari, the great wife of Pharaoh Amose-Bermern, was granted the title God's Wife of Amun, referencing the myth that Amun created the world through masturbation. This title was later granted to the great wife of every pharaoh, recognizing her role in the state religion of Amun. The female pharaoh Hatshepsut took this further, claiming that Amun, in the guise of her father, Pharaoh Thutmose II, had impregnated her mother, thereby legitimizing her rule as Amun's divine daughter. Amun's will was also revealed through oracles controlled by his priests, who had amassed such wealth and land that they rivaled the power of the pharaoh. Concerned by the growing influence of the Theban clergy, Amenhotep III implemented reforms to curb their power. However, his son, Akhenaten, went even further, replacing Amun with the Aten and establishing a new capital, Akhetaten. This experiment in religious reform was short-lived, and both Amun and Thebes were restored under Tutankhamun's rule. The worship of Amun spread beyond Egypt's borders, particularly into Nubia. By the 25th dynasty, Amun Ra was the principal god of the kingdom of Napata in Nubia, where he was believed to have originated from Gebel Barkal in northern Sudan. Amun's main celebration was the Opet festival, during which his statue was transported down the Nile from Karnak to the Luxor temple to celebrate his marriage to Mut, or Taweret. In this festival, Amun's procreative function was emphasized, epitomized by his title Kamut F, bull of his mother.